So at this point, you should have two um, layers here, a post-burn and a pre-burn. And the post-burn is going to show the fire scar and the pre-burn is going to be all white. Is that correct? And so after you have calculated the two burn ratios, let's go ahead and calculate the burn severity index. And if you're doing this when you're tired or if it's late, apologize, but these look too similar, but it's calculate versus classify. We need to work on the calculate step. So I'm going to copy that and go to here, and I'm going to bring down the script, and we're going to paste that in there. And I want to subtract the NBR values of post conditions from values of preconditions. Before I get my head wrapped around what exactly I'm, um, whoever wrote this is telling us to do, I'm going to kind of check in here and say, let's check our images. And I'm going to ask for the post burn ratio and the pre burn ratio that we just calculated, right? And if I click run here, there's that image and there's that image. So the post burn has got one band and the pre burn ratio has one band. And that's what we were trying to do, right? Because we were trying to go basically use the information that was in two bands to create a new output and a new band. Is that fair? And so it's not described what it is, it just says ND. So let's try to fix that by going back up to the here where we made the burn ratio and we um, did that, or we actually could do this right here and say that we want to add a rename step where we rename the band and let's call it the NBR, since that's what it is, the normalized burn ratio. So now if I click run, this function's going to be a little bit improved because our band is going to be labeled for what the data actually store. Um, and so what we want to do here is subtract the NBR values of post condition from values of precondition. And if you're tired or if it's late, could be confusing because we got to go from verbal language description to math. But I've got this container called burn severity, and that's going to be equal to, and I want to subtract one from the other. But if I subtract this from this, I think I actually am saying take this and then subtract, oops, take the pre-burn ratio and then subtract the post-burn ratio. All right, does that make sense? Because if I'm going to subtract this from this, then I'm going to subtract this from this. I think that's how it's supposed to go. Sorry if I'm making it more confusing, but sometimes this is kind of where things can get a little tricky. Um, okay, so I've got burn severity, and then I need to display it. So I'm going to say curly Q min. Let's go for -2, and max. Let's go for 2, and then this is going to be the burn severity, and I'm going to try to spell it correctly, and then please don't display it. Wink, run. And let's see how we did. So the burn severity is going to come in, and I think what you should see, and I'm just going to check it with my other thing down here, um, but the burn severity, sorry for the pause here, is, yep, that looks good. So if we grab our inspector and click on it, what you should see is that there's our pre-burn NBR, post-burn, and then our burn severity is going to be positive if it burned, and it's going to be negative if it or very low if it did not burn. Is that fair? Hopefully. there's that. So maybe the last thing that we could do here is after we've subtracted it, is to kind of rename it, and we can call this burn severity. Um, is that all right? And that will then, if we click on it, when we get the inspector to tell us what's going on, it's going to now list that band as burn severity. Save, move on.